We've all heard that saying, seeing is believing. But what's also true is that what you believe influences what you think you see. You see what you want to believe is true, or what you've been made to think is true. If you believe that racism is a hurdle that you can't overcome, then every negative thing that happens in your life you'll see as being because of racism. Was the cashier short with you at the grocery store? Racism. You didn't get that job you wanted? Racism. A rope is tied into a hangman's knot? Racism. I'm sure you've all heard about the noose found in NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace's garage at the Talladega Speedway. It was hanging down from a garage door, and the executives at NASCAR just knew it was evidence of a hate crime. NASCAR's president could barely speak and had tears rolling down his face as he broke the news to Wallace, the only full-time black driver. Of course, it turned out to not be a threat against Bubba. It had been in that garage since last year, long before his team was ever assigned to that garage. You know, there's some Speedway maintenance guy that's sitting at home right now like, oops. It's a bit of bad luck that the only black race car driver in NASCAR was assigned to a garage that had a noose in it. But what are people thinking? That someone tied a hangman's knot on a rope that normally has a loop and a knot to send a message? We've heard this charge so many times, but they always turn out to be either a hoax or a misunderstanding. There's no doubt that this looks like a noose. But come on, the president of NASCAR sobbing over it and jumping to such a conclusion is so ridiculous. John Nolte at Breitbart put together a short history of all the times a noose was either faked or mistaken for a hate crime. And no one has come up with a list of hate crimes where white people are threatening blacks with a noose. At least not since Democrats quit lynching people. The simple truth is, the people at NASCAR saw what they've been made to think is true. It's the same with feminists and the patriarchy. They see evidence of sexism everywhere they look, and it doesn't matter if the truth about something is perfectly obvious. Male athletes make more money than women athletes do. It's the patriarchy. Even though the obvious reason is right in front of their faces, they can't see it, because they believe anything that seems unfair must be due to sexism. I had an argument with a feminist about this a couple years ago. She was adamant that NBA players and WNBA players should be paid the exact same. I told her that what she was missing is that the men bring in a lot more money than the women do. To that she said, "That's also sexist. If you like basketball, you should want to watch the women play just as much as the men." I pointed out that women just aren't as good as the men, and basketball fans generally like to watch a higher level of competition. I said you could put LeBron James on the worst WNBA basketball team and they would win the championship hands down. To that she said, "There are probably like 500 people who are as good as LeBron James who don't even want to make basketball a career." You see, she has no fundamental understanding of why male athletes get paid more than women do. I mean, she thinks there are 500 dudes playing basketball at the YMCA who don't want to make $25 million a year. She sees the tremendous difference in wages, and because it must be due to sexism, she can't even start to understand the real reason why that is. It's easy to see that Bubba wasn't threatened by a rope hanging in his garage, and it's also easy to see why most male athletes get paid significantly higher than their female counterparts do. But could there be an even more obvious example of this kind of nonsense? So I searched for different ways we're told by the left that groups are discriminated against, and I landed on ageism. That's the discrimination against middle-aged and old people. They tell us that an example of ageism is that 90% of marketing dollars are targeted toward people under the age of 50. Instead of trying to understand why that is, they immediately jump to ageism. Those marketing companies just hate old people, right? Or perhaps the reason marketing dollars target younger people is because younger people spend their money more frivolously. If anything, this should be unfair to younger people. But if you see ageism in everything, well, that's what it must be. Now, here's the worst part about all of this. The people leading the charge don't believe any of it. They're just using the people they've convinced into believing that they're constantly being discriminated against for political and social change. If a marketing company's goal is to get their clients' products sold to as many people as possible, they're not going to discriminate against senior citizens. They're going to target the people they think they can sell the product to. Because if ageism was a problem, then some marketing company would come along and target old people and get filthy rich. As we've talked about before, they want you angry. They want us divided. They want you fearful, and they want you to fall in line. That's what this is all about. Understand that there are people out there who are trying to use our differences for their advantage. They want you to find a reason to be upset. That's the only way they can get you to do their bidding. The political left aren't problem solvers, they're problem purveyors. They teach victimhood. They train young minds to jump to conclusions. They have no use for a thinking man, as was so elegantly said by Massachusetts Congressman Ayanna Pressley.
For whatever lived experience and identity that you represent, if you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice.
What she's saying is that if you're black and you want to think for yourself, they don't have any use for you. And if you're queer and don't want to blindly follow their ideology, well, you're not welcome. Your voices are not needed unless you're just a parrot. They want mindless sheep. They want you so unable to think for yourself that you jump to the worst case possible. They want you shouting Black Lives Matter even though you don't understand their Marxist intentions. They want you so confused, scared, and angry that you see racism in a statue that was paid for by former slaves of Abraham Lincoln freeing the last slave.
Tory Bullock is challenging the city and the mayor to take down this statue near Park Plaza. It's called the Freedmen's Monument. It's a replica of the original in Washington, D.C., with President Lincoln standing over a freed slave. The inscription on its base reads, "A race set free," but interpretations of the artwork varies.
It says that it's a statue that's supposed to represent freedom, but to me it represents submissiveness. It represents know your place because that's where you belong.
Know your place because that's where you belong? The statue is President Lincoln freeing the last slave. The shackles are broken. He's getting up. That's no longer his place. I'm afraid that the left controlling our school systems and the media and the narrative have failed our citizens miserably. They got a black man protesting an Abraham Lincoln statue and voting for the party of the KKK. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and if you want to become a supporting member of Blue Collar Logic, click on the link in the description and give what you can.